Alright, we will be doing this presentation on Bee Creek Cave Harvestman. The Bee Creek Cave Harvestman is one of 28 species within the Texella genus found in North America and can be classified as an arachnid invertebrate. With that being said, this species is scientifically known as Texella redelli. This species belongs to the Laniatoras suborder of the Apilones order while falling into the Texella genus. The entire Texella genus tends to be referred to as daddy longlegs for their unusually long legs compared to their relatively smaller torso. The species appear to exhibit a yellow-brownish color. The bodies of the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman can span to approximately 3 millimeters in length, with their appendages reaching a length of almost 6 times that size. The midsection of their dorsal area is described as smooth with 5 indistinct areas dividing it. Lastly, the eyes of this species are a rounded cone shape that are positioned somewhat away from the anterior area of their body, thus making the appearance as though they do not have any eyes. The females are very similar in appearance to the males, that of which I just described, except they do not have projections on the genital operculum and their fourth trochanter. Species description and significance. The Apilones order are classified as arachnids that originate from the Paleozoic era. This order represents a diversity that considers historic biogeographical arrangements that can relate back to the time of Pangaea. Apilones have recorded fossils that can date back to the early Devonian. These fossils show respected vicariant patterns that can relate to the order's most recent distribution. The suborder of Laniatoras are commonly referred to as the armored harvestmen among the 4 suborders with the Apilones order. Relationships with the Laniatoras or suborder have changed with the emergence of several families in more recent years. With that being said, there is constantly changes being made to the declaration of species within this suborder. The terrestrial mode of survival and their insufficiently mineralized exoskeleton leads to a difficulty in preservation, thus making the amount of fossils for the order limited. The limited amount of fossils for the species leads to a further difficulty determining where the population started to differentiate and where the species has inhabited previously. In relation to designatable units, the recommendation would be 1 unit for the entire species of Bee Creek Cave Harvestman. While previously known to inhabit the Williamson County area in Texas, it has since been removed from their range and was settled to represent T. reesi, the Bone Cave Harvestman, and T. redelli's range was extended into Burnett County. Although T. redelli occupies both Travis and Burnett counties, as of now, the distance between Travis County and Burnett County does not warrant a second designatable unit distinction. When examining the reasoning for multiple designatable units, discreteness and evolutionary significance must be evaluated. In reference to T. redelli, the geographic coverage is weak, which can result in the discreteness of the species. If the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman was to be lost in Texas, then the species would be considered extinct. With that being said, the discreteness of the species can also be viewed through inheritable traits. Although there is only implied evidence of gene flow between the Travis and Burnett populations, there is a sufficient amount to warrant that the 2 populations of the species may very well exchange genetic information. In regards to the evolutionary significance of the species, there are specific adaptive traits that each population would carry due to the difference in human populations. Burnett County is significantly less populated than Travis County, thus the T. redelli species in Travis County would need to acquire certain traits that allow them to adapt to the magnitude of the human representation within the area. However, since little research has been conducted on the genetic makeup of each population of T. redelli, it is difficult to determine if they actually do possess such traits. Thus, it cannot be definitively stated that there is evolutionary significance in the adaptive traits of each population. Distribution. T. riedeli is found to be distributed amongst the Austin, Texas area along the Colorado River. They occupy the caves within the Burnett and Travis County regions, while previously occupying the Williamson County area. Figure 1 represents the distribution of T. riedeli within Travis County. With that being said, the distribution of the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman is limited as they occupy only one state. T. riedeli is known to occupy 11 caves and 3 open surface in both the Burnett and Travis counties. Table 1 represents the cave clusters and the individual caves in which the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman inhabits. The Jollyville Plateau and Rollingwood Karst fauna regions both contain 4 caves inhabited by T. riedeli. At the moment, these 2 regions are the only known karst fauna areas to be occupied by the species. There are 5 occurrences where T. riedeli populates beyond the delineated karst fauna regions. As shown in Table 1, a collection of this species inhabits an intersection on State Highway 71 and the Pedernales River within Travis County. An important development in the distribution is whether inhabited caves authorize consolidation into a single population established by geographic proximity. There is no particular data based on the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman. Research has shown that troglodytic arachnids may distribute through various subterranean gaps. With that being said, for research it is assumed that populations of T. riedeli with competent geological relatedness are able to disperse in subterranean areas and allow gene flow amongst karst characteristics. A maximum dispersal radius of 300 meters from each cave inhabited by the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman has been assigned to the species to justify potential genetic relatedness. Since there is not much research conducted on the species, this maximum radius is estimated based on another troglodytic arachnid, the tooth cave spider. Genetic analysis of the species is crucial to provide greater certainty around the dispersal radius. If the respective radiuses of each cave occupied by the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman overlapped, they are considered to have clusters and are assumed to be inhabited by the T. riedeli population. If a cave did not lie within the 300-meter radius or another cave or 600 meters apart, it is classified as an individual cave. These caves are studied to determine the species that reside within them. Habitat. The Bee Creek Cave Harvestman is endemic to the Texas Balcones Canyonlands ecoregion. In particular, the harvestman is found mainly in the karst fauna regions of Burnett and Travis counties of Texas. Karst refers to terrain formed as a result of the slow dissolution of calcium carbonate of surface and subsurface limestone, as well as other types of soluble rocks, which is caused by erosion from slightly acidic groundwater. The flow of this groundwater through subterranean channels forms a series of subterranean voids, such as caves. Arthropods that dwell within caves tend to prefer high levels of humidity, and the harvestman is no exception, as the species is highly susceptible to desiccation and requires fairly stable temperatures. Additionally, humidity is a particularly important factor for the harvestman's spatial ecology. Both surface and subsurface drainage basins provide water which helps maintain high levels of humidity for the harvestman. The harvestman relies primarily on other invertebrates as a source of food. Many nutrients for the harvestman come from surface habitats that the harvestman's subterranean habitat is dependent upon. The availability of surface nutrients is a key factor for the species' survival. Often organic matter from plants or animals that have either been washed into the caves by water, blown in by the wind, or simply transported from animals provides a source of nutrition for the harvestman. Cave crickets, in particular, are one of the harvestman's main sources of nutrients, either as live prey, carcasses, or eggs. A decline in cave cricket populations can also lead to a decline in populations of the harvestman. The habitat of the harvestman has, in certain circles, been termed as a superficial subterranean habitat. These habitats are very similar to deep subterranean systems in that they both have an absence of light, high levels of humidity, nutrients dependent upon surface habitats, more stable temperatures, and troglomorph invertebrates present. What differentiates superficial subterranean habitats from deep subterranean habitats is that, for one, they're closer to the surface, but also that they have air-filled voids in the upper sections of karst rock, along with lava fissures/tubes, talus, and scree. Talus and some other rock debris accumulations are often indicative of interconnectedness between subterranean ecosystems and possible gene flow between populations. Biology. The harvestman is considered to exhibit partial troglomorphism, as it has characteristics that are quasi-indicative of troglomorphs, with some troglomorph-like features and adaptations to a subterranean, specifically cave, environment. This could in part be because there are both cave-dwelling and surface-dwelling harvestman populations. Unfortunately, there has been little data collected on the surface-dwelling harvestmen and their habitats, and at least currently are not considered separate species. Some troglomorph adaptations include an increased leg length and a reduction or loss of vision. While T. riddelli does live in caves, its eyes are developed and its legs are shorter in comparison to other troglomorphs. That being stated, it has been found that harvestmen from surface sites have shorter leg 2 scute lengths at 3.1 to 3.11, excuse me, 3.10 to 3.11 millimeters, compared to cave-dwelling harvestmen with leg 2 scute lengths at 3.8 to 5.2 millimeters. Further research studies would need to be conducted to determine if the surface and cave-dwelling populations of the harvestman have enough distinctive features to qualify as separate species, such as if a sortative mating occurs, or if there are hybridization events between the two or not. While there is not currently direct evidence of gene flow between the different populations, there is indirect evidence suggesting it does, such as has been previously mentioned, the interconnectedness of these subterranean systems. Additionally, within the same geographical area of central Texas, identical haplotypes taken from the troglomorphic Texoridelia species, springtail, have been found. Scientists attributed this to dispersal through fissures in small cavities within the epicrust. Unfortunately, it is not known what reproductive rates are required in order to sustain a healthy population for the harvestman. The pure subterranean species of the genus Texella are known to spend their entire life cycles in caves. However, it is less certain if this is the case for Texella riddelli, as there are both surface and subsurface populations. It is possible that the surface and subsurface populations reproduce one another, but again, it's not known. As such, it is possible that the subterranean T. riddelli spend most, if not all, of their lives in caves. But again, this is currently not known. While the life cycle and reproductive strategies for T. riddelli are currently unknown, what is known is that the suborder of Apilones lineatores, which T. riddelli is a part of, mainly exhibit female defense polygamy, where males will directly control females by defending/fighting for them against potential rival males. Additionally, some species of Lineatores harvestmen exhibit maternal care, with mothers guarding and protecting eggs from predation to allow enough individuals to survive into the future and maintain the population. It is possible that T. riddelli exhibit the same behavior, but it is currently unknown. Depending on the environmental conditions such as temperature, eggs of harvestman species can hatch anywhere from after 20 days to half a year. Additionally, harvestmen go through anywhere from 4 to 8 nymphal instar stages before reaching sexual maturity. Given how little data has been gathered on T. riddelli, It is unknown just how long it takes for their eggs to hatch. However, the majority of harvestman species undergo 6 nymphal instar stages, so it is likely the case for T. redelli as well. Population sizes and trends. The table within this slide, specifically column 4, is what can be used to infer population trends within T. redelli species by using the relationship between said species and the cave cricket. This table can also be used to estimate the trends of the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman by observing the trends in impacted cave cricket foraging. The relationship between these species is proportional and can estimate population declines. As of now, there have been no studies conducted to observe trends regarding fluctuations of the species. However, using the mentioned relationship between T. redelli and tawny ant Nylanderia fulva, the resiliency of the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman can be inferred. This allows for a relative estimation of the fluctuations within respective populations, as seen in Table 2 created by J. Smith Castro, M. Warner, and J. Wilson for the 5-year review of T. redelli. The lack of information regarding breeding patterns and trends limits information regarding overall population size and trends. This is because there is no information to base estimates on. Because of this, any trends or fluctuations in reproduction cannot be observed. Currently, there is no information regarding immigration or emigration trends for the species. This can lead to issues in the future if entire populations or fractions of populations who choose to immigrate to other geographical locations. As a result of this hypothetical immigration, any future studies can be based on unsustainable or unrealistic growth trends in population sizes. Finally, this can lead to future issues with the designation of the species, as the species can be labeled extinct when in actuality the populations have simply immigrated to a different habitat. Threats and limiting factors. To begin with threats. Since 2009, a new species of ants, the tawny ant Nylanderia fulva, not native to the Travis County region, has established communities at cave sites within the area. The tawny ant is a species native to South America but was first discovered in Texas in 2002. Since its discovery, the ant has developed societies along the Texas Gulf Coast and various central Texas counties, such as Travis County. Within these regions, N. fulva has shown the ability to impact native species and plant communities, one of which is T. redelli. These ants use the caves for their moisture and surface temperatures, as they are seen to inhabit these areas more frequently in the hot and dry summer seasons. Since tawny ants prey on cave crickets and other karst invertebrates, such as T. redelli, these karst invertebrates are more susceptible to a decrease in their population. In addition to the presence of a new species, the human population in both Travis and Burnett counties has grown immensely. From 2010 to 2017, the human population within Travis County grew to 1,226,698 people. This is an increase of 192% in comparison to 1980's human population. This increase in human population leads to an associated increase in the conversion of surface habitat for residential and commercial properties that could extend until 2060. If the projections are accurate, land clearing, construction, and installation of infrastructure will tag along with this growth. Thus, within Travis County, threats from growth and development due to an expedited increase in the human population are projected to continue, causing further habitat loss for T. redelli. Moving on to limiting factors. T. redelli, as has been mentioned, prefers caves as a form of habitat, in part because of the open surface characteristics of the areas, and also because caves offer species high levels of humidity and an environment with stable temperatures to decrease the likelihood of desiccation. The Bee Creek Cave Harvestman's preference for a cave environment with the support of high humidity levels leads to a limited amount of regions that the species can inhabit, since there are limited areas that offer this particular type of environment. T. redelii is restricted in regards to where they can potentially reside. The Bee Creek Cave Harvestmen are limited to biomes based on their preferred living conditions. Biomes are large regions that can be defined by their vegetation, soil, climate, and species that inhabit them. The type of biomes that T. redelii tends to inhabit is temperate grasslands, which offer a dry and warm climate and can be found in areas such as North America, Hungary, and Russia. However, open surface regions with native vegetation, such as the temperate grasslands that T. redelii inhabits, has been decreasing, leading to the sites not being able to support a feasible population on a long-term basis. Protection status and ranks. The figure displayed on this slide shows the regions which are protected by the Recovery Plan for Endangered Karst Invertebrates. Within this region, the karst fauna regions are protected in their entirety. The Bee Creek Cave Harvestman is a species of Ophilones found within the legally protected karst fauna regions. These regions are protected by the Recovery Plan for Endangered Karst Invertebrates. Although these regions are legally protected, it has not been deemed that the species' individual habitats, caves or cave clusters, are protected themselves. This can pose a risk for further engagement in the future if the species were to immigrate to a geographic location outside of these regions, as the individual caves, which they designate as their new habitat, are not protected simply because this endangered species inhabits them. The current status of the Bee Creek Cave Harvestman is endangered. This species was designated as such in 1988, with no change to the status since then. Provided that 5-year reviews are continued in the future, research provides further information on the species and protection plans are put in place. The species status designation should not fall below endangered. NatureServe 22 has ranked T. redelii as imperiled, S2, within the USA. This ranking means that the species' restricted range, severe threats, few occurrences slash occupancies, or other threats places the species at a high risk of extirpation within their documented geographical locations within the karst fauna regions. The rank of imperiled comes from the fact that the range is between 100 to 250 kilometers squared, with the species being extremely susceptible to external threats. Globally, the species is ranked as imperiled G2, with the status of G2 meaning that NatureServe 2022 believes the species is at risk of extinction resulting from restricted range, external threats, and few occurrences slash populations. Here is a list of all of our bibliographic information. Hopefully you enjoyed this presentation.